Hi all and welcome back to the final piece of tonight's show. And the last piece we've done some fairly heavy op-ed pieces recently, which I may consider wrapping 3 or 4 of them together and doing a short show with them. Maybe it'll have more of an effect. But it brought mixed emotions. Now, what I put out in that final piece was only a fraction of what was revealed. And maybe over time more will get revealed in this show. But it was riddled with triggers, riddled with ponderings, and riddled with joy and also despair. And it was one of the most difficult pieces to ponder on, write, and then relay in a manner that was not fully in your face for all. It has to be piecemealed. But the reality of it, depending on where your head and heart is at the time, dictates your emotion to it. The must listen to shows and the various op-ed pieces were in a way designed to bring you to that particular piece. Now, some of the new members may well struggle with that piece due to coming in later to the show and also the message. Now, the key part of it, which brought up a range of emotions, is the potential rapture, for want of a better word, of what if that unfolds. What are the thoughts and emotions attached to it? And did we not do a piece recently of how to control your thoughts and emotions? I wonder why we did that. Who will stay? Who will go? What will it look like? How will I cope? And could I handle the grief? How do you get over that type of event? Now, all of those answers I can help with, but all of those answers also are inside of all of you. You've just forgotten it. Some may well think, well, I will lose my family or loved ones. But stop and think on that. Who made you their judge and jury to decide whether they're going or not? The only judge or judgment is of yourself only. The biblical and scripture programming tells you otherwise, for the sole reason to keep you in a smaller mode of operation and thinking on that level. There is no pearly gates or Egyptian cult heart-weighing centres unless you create them. Only you know if you are ready to progress. Your own frequency or signature dictates that. It's all about letting go. The levels of inner work dictates that. The more you let go of your shadow mask role player and bring in the real you, the easier it gets. Most people's vessels were full of dark, where past memories, either this or previous lifetimes for that matter, were rarely of a positive nature. Only the negative events stick to you like you've been tarred and in some cases feathered. Water is the source of life, they say. Maybe here it is the actual source. But it won't mix with oil. Our bodies are 60% water. The brain and the heart are composed of 73% water. The lungs are about 83% water. The skin 64%. Muscles and kidneys are 79%, and even the bones are 31%. Trauma, pain, anguish, anxiety, suffering, disease are all part of that, and the consequences thereof of the overflow reminiscent of toxic oil of trauma. It needs to be water. Water reacts with frequencies to transmute things in a better way. But if water is blocked as oil becomes a barrier, this then leads to disease, mental and physical. It leads to unhealthiness and leads to negativity and increasing masks to hide it. You then have a person out of balance, and their reactions, emotions and projections increase on a rapid scale, leading to an emotional breakdown, where almost every interaction with somebody else leads to a trigger to that person. You hear people say, I always meet people like this, that and the other. Why? Because you haven't learned to deal with them or let them go. The classic example is a female in a violent relationship. They leave that one and jump into another violent relationship. And some will say that is bad luck. No, it's not. It is an example of that person not dealing with, processing and letting go of the last relationship. That's the key. Essentially, whilst the looks of the new person will be different, they are still with the original person they left to begin with. It's an archetype. You've just convinced yourself that these two partners are different. Subconsciously, they're not. How does that work? We have all pondered on. The answer is you reap what you sow. Oh, that will sting some, I know. What you're telling me I bring this all on myself, Thomas? Well, the answer is yes. When you merge your subconscious to the conscious, you'll understand that answer. Like brain hemispheres, they should not be separate. When you master the mental and emotional states, then those happenstances will just magically disappear, although you can get reminders from time to time. To use a Seth term, Sethicus, as within, so without. So what was within will come out as well. Same as what is above, so below. So what does that mean? Each emotion and thought has a code frequency. Like magnets, they attract each other. Miserable people will find miserable people. Enlightened will find the enlightened. Cheats will find cheats. Happy people will find happy people. Sheep will find sheep. Masks attract masks. Thinkers attract thinkers. I'm glad some people liked some of the Sethicus material, but particularly some chose to focus on some of his more guttural language. And if that is your focus of attention, then you've missed the key part of his intent and message. And it's suggestive perhaps you have more work to do internally. This is what the clowns do. They'll throw in a bit of truth and distract you with a load of bullshit. The key is to learn to focus. There is often a term used called Debbie Downers. Do you not see them people being drawn to each other? You see, it's all about subconscious attraction, manifesting into the conscious. The minute you change your life and frequency, those people fade away from you. And their later presence can and will become painful to your frequency and presence. Opposites attract, they say. No, that is an external judgment. A difference in age, looks, profession are used as an examples of they're an odd couple. as a conformist to the normal opinion only, and subsequently must be seen as programming. And yet, is it not the case, more times than not, that the so-called odd couples last longer than the so-called perfect match couples? Why do you think that is? Could it be they are matched on the internal, not the external aspect? The answer is yes. So opposites attract is another myth, basically a program to conform to what they decide or consider the norm. Normal is a control-based program of branding people and items, all laid out by the puppet-based think tank programs at the behest of their masters. There is too much made out in the New Age bullshittery programs of soulmates and the likes, but what is often overlooked is of the role of the soul families. That may or may not have originated from here. People often wonder how and why they met. It's all an accident, they say. Nope, it wasn't. It was a predetermined destiny for when you reached a certain frequency and understanding. How many of you would have listened to my show 3 years ago, 5 years ago, or 6 years ago? Why does it resonate now and not then? For some of you, you've been through with me on this journey from day one, which is coming up to 6 years next month. The reason being is you are not in the right frequency or thought pattern zone to receive this show is why. But also remember, I was not in my current frequency and thought pattern then either. It's called progression. People pondered heavily, I would imagine, of what happens if volumes of people just disappear. Could it be argued they were not here for you to begin with? There's a few ways of looking at that, and I will also pose a question back. What if those people were not real to begin with? Just fillers in a movie scene. That's just rattled a few heads, I would imagine. Extras in a scene of our own making, all designed for your benefit and for you to get your act together. Have you considered that as a possibility? Is the world full of non-playing characters? I know Randy Morgan's did a show recently on this. Maybe you should all check it out. Yes, it's a possibility. The more I look at matters and go deeper, the more I see 80 to 85% of people not being real. The easiest for our thought processing is the option that those people are largely possessed, and evidence does support that. But then we have the synths or bots. An army of people all going around oblivious to the world or their own surroundings, mired in a hive-minded program. And then you have clones. They are the lesser variety, although they do exist, but not on a mass scale. So which fits? One, none, or all of them? Suggestions or questions? That is the question for the listener to answer. Synths or bots does explain the non-playing characters depiction rather well. We have all struggled with the concept of people not waking up, as to us it makes no sense. To those programmed, we will never make sense. They were not hardwired for that level of reasoning. Again, it resembles robotics or artificial, does it not? To those people, facts or truth have little to no relevance. They prefer the lie, or perhaps program with it, which to us makes no sense whatsoever. But you can't tell a microwave to do the job of a radio or a TV, or tell a digital watch to boil an egg. So how can you tell someone who doesn't have the software to understand basic facts? You can't. This then leads us to a deeper level of thinking and understanding, which then poses some more questions. What if those people were only here for you to chart your path? Essentially, LARPs, live action role players, pushing you into a certain mode of operating. We get our best lessons not from the light, but from the dark, do we not? Have you thought it is a possibility that these LARPs, who largely ignore you from day to day, suddenly decide to engage you, and why? Let's use an example. You walk along the same road every day to work unhindered, and one day someone bumps into you. How do you react? Some say sorry, even if it wasn't their fault. Some grimace, roll eyes, frown, and raise eyebrows with a look of contempt, and some effing blind at each other, and some fight. For those people, that event will happen again, maybe in the supermarket, and people say, I've had the strangest of days, people keep bumping into me. What's wrong with these people? Are they all drunk? No, you didn't react the right way the first time. And so it repeats again as another bot slams into you. Although these effects now is complicated due to people looking at phones instead of where they're going. Now I could go on with repeat scenarios of that ilk, but you all get the gist. But let's take this a stage further. What if everyone here was already awake and playing roles? And it's we who needs the great awakening on a different level. What if the people we meet are there to assist us, for us to wake up? Is that a possibility you've considered? There is a propensity, is there not, that we are ahead of them, and how frustrating it is they're not catching up. But what if they've already attained a frequency and are assisting us to gain that frequency by being the opposite? Being the head, being the dark lesson, testing us all to see how far we will go in our own awakening. And it's something to ponder on. But let's go deeper again. Time to look at life through a different set of eyes. Most people, when faced with this possible scenario, focuses on what they lost, not what they gained. Like past life memories. The predominant memory is almost always deep trauma-based, is it not? Which is why I don't think it's overly useful to people in here. And now, in the now, to recall, no matter how much fun it sounds, of past life memories, the many people I've spoken to and met with this issue all talk in trauma-based narratives. The biggest problem we have to do with trauma is death. It is a problem on this planet due to our lack of knowledge and also trust of the self, all laid out by the anti-life program known as religion. It is they who created the fear factor surrounding that subject, and it plays out in the subconscious on a daily basis, occasionally coming out to the conscious level. But when a member of your circle gets ill or dies, all of us deep down wonder, am I next? All fear-based programming. There is no end, only a new beginning. And the key to understanding and overcoming this is something this show has focused on for a while now, the external and internal aspect. A family member dies and you've perceived it as a total loss because of everyone's programming of operating in the external. But those people are not lost internally, are they? They are still there in frequency, heart, mind and memories. You are part of the all, so they are part of you, are they not? The internal-external issue came up today on the chat. People were focusing on the external human resonance figures to validate what they already know, that the frequencies have gone up. Why do people need other people or technology to validate their own knowing? But often is it not the case we are selfish with loved ones, wanting them to stay alive at all costs despite suffering, disabilities, pain, when the humane thing is to let them go. Quality of life should always trump quantity, where sickness, injury and pain is overbearing in their lives. We put animals down for less, as it's the mercy thing to do, yet when loved ones are sick, it is keep them alive at all costs. But we're essentially holding them here, because we won't let go. Here is another question to ponder on. What if the 85% are not going missing, but waiting for us on the other side? What if they have ascended previously and they have avatars in here to elevate us? It's always a distinct possibility, as their behaviour in here makes no sense whatsoever. But if they are avatars, as based in this scenario, it would seriously make more sense of the 85% in here of not being real. But there is another emotion in here that would be difficult for not just one side, but both. If one group phases out, they have lost 15%. Of mainly people they have discarded in society anyway. But for us, the 85% apparent loss would be deemed too much, would be deemed to be much larger. But how many are we really attached to in real terms anyway? Trauma on either side would be fairly heavy. But here is another conundrum and something to really ponder on. Given the past, present and future are all one and the same, what if the trauma of losing them is not a future event, but a replay of something that happened in the past? In that scenario, we are not losing people in the now, but reliving possibly something that happened a long time in the past. Given our past memories are sketchy and the frequent memory wipes, that could well be another possibility. If that is the case, then this event would not be a loss and trauma event at all, but possibly a reunification with the real live versions of those people. The key to it all is letting go. Letting go of the external connections. All connections are really internal. And when time is right for you to take the great leap of faith, that must be done with no limitations. With earthbound and physical limitations imposed on the self, that leap becomes impossible. Change impossible to I'm possible. Never follow the herd. They will always lead you astray. Just maybe that's what they're here for. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. I will be back at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. That's going to be a fun show. Bye for now.